First of all, I want to thank everyone who has joined me on this little journey over the last month and a half. In some ways it feels like forever, but in many ways like it was just yesterday that I put up my first video. I could not have imagined getting 1,000 subscribers in such a short amount of time. I'm particularly so thankful for those of you who have been around since the very beginning. I love reading all the comments, even the negative ones. Anyway, 1K is the first big milestone for a YouTube channel, and as such, I wanted to make sure I said something about it to celebrate it. I also want to say real quick, this will be the last video that I will be putting out with the current microphone I've been using since the start. I paid something like 30 buckaroonies for the one I'm using right now, which was a bargain because it came with an arm, but yeah, there was a reason it was so cheap. I'm upgrading to a slightly better blue mic that will sound hopefully louder and clearer. That's another reason why I'm making this video today and not one of the bigger, more formal videos I have planned, because I'm looking forward to using the new mic. Anyway, since this is going to be a bit of an atypical video, what I wanted to do today is talk a little bit about information literacy, why it's important, and how to become information literate. I think with the current state of the mainstream media, it is more important now than ever to possess information literacy. Also, I know this might be a little bit of a boring topic. If you stay tuned to the end, I will get to some personal information that I decided to record for the 1K subscriber special, but that might be boring to others. So, let's get into it. First, let's define information literacy. The SUNY Council of Library Directors defines information literacy as the abilities to recognize when information is needed and to locate, evaluate, effectively use, and communicate information in its various formats. Basically, it means having the ability to seek out, process, utilize, and then talk about pieces of data, facts, figures, and generally, as the term suggests, information. Eisenberg and Berkowitz, oy vey, developed a 6-stage model of information literacy to help the average person develop these abilities. Step 1 is task definition. This is essentially a hypothesis or an open-ended question. Before you can seek out information on a topic, you need to know what you're looking for, or else you're going to get all kinds of results that may be unimportant or totally unrelated to the question you're asking. Like, let's say I want to buy a car. If I just type in car into Google, is that really going to help me find out where and how to buy a car? Step 2 is one of significant importance today, which is identification of sources. There are a couple of things to consider when you go about finding sources. Some examples of what might make a source more important to your answer and your search more than others are things such as relevance, accuracy of reporting, precision of reporting, depth and breadth of the information, basically what does it cover, the fairness of the reporting, potential authorial egocentrism, basically is the author a dick, timeliness, i.e. how recent or up-to-date is the source, and also timeliness in terms of how much time you as a media consumer are able to allocate to this research. And that last bit brings up a bit of the importance of source credibility. That is the concept that a certain media outlet has some inherent value or credibility, or lack thereof. The average person does not have the time, nor should need the time, to expend the effort to investigate every story personally. That's supposedly the job of journalists and the mainstream media. However, as we've seen lately, the media isn't doing that job anymore. Again, that's why alternative media is so useful, but it very much upsets the classical definitions of source credibility. Look, I'm anonymous. You all can probably guess some things about me, who I am, what I do as a person, but for many reasons I started this channel anonymously. As a product of that anonymity though, there is nothing I can say or do to convince any one of you that I'm not talking straight out of my ass and making all this shit up. Well, I mean, I always provide sources, but again, it shouldn't be your job to scour every link I post. If you want to, I 100% encourage it. But this channel, for me, is as much about being entertaining as it is about actually discussing news and politics, as it is what I'm doing right now, which is talking about, lecturing, I guess you could say, theory and the processes of media psychology and the social sciences. Anyway, my point is, at one time you could go to an article from the New York Times, and while you might expect some spin, you knew you were at least getting all the information because the New York Times had source credibility. No more. At this point, I don't know who has source credibility. If you want my short list of the traditional media, I'd say the least biased tend to be the Associated Press, although they've certainly been involved in this shit. Reuters? And no joke, Russia Today, which is funded by the fucking Russian government. Yet they frequently have multiple perspectives, and I rarely see that kind of thing from the likes of NPR and the BBC these days, which is truly disheartening. I remember when I was in high school, I thought the BBC was the pinnacle of journalism. Anyway, I'm harping on this too much because this traditional Big Six model now falls apart here at the second step. I mean, this is a pretty traditional view of media biases, with a definitive leftist skew, but traditional. This chart, however, is completely wrong now. I mean, the Wall Street Journal, The Atlantic, Slate, The Guardian, they have all proven themselves to be disingenuous. And Vox? Holy shit, why is Vox on here? Also, the fact that Huffington Post is considered anything but complete and utter clickbait trash is hysterical. Additionally, it lumps in The Blaze, Red State, and Breitbart together with InfoWars. Look, I love Alex Jones. I wish he was like my crazy uncle.
God, people are so evil. Why can't America wake up and beat them? Donald Trump's not perfect, but he doesn't want to hurt you and your family. Hillary and Obama want to make you poor and pathetic. We have all their white papers. They hate you. They hate prosperity. They hate God. They hate children. And goddamn them to hell. We're going to find the lever to beat these people, and they're going to be beat. Look at her shark face. Have to look at her with that demon face. That's a frickin' demon. We're going to have President Linda Blair, people, and I'm not going to go along with it. Excuse me.
But one of these things is not like the other, okay? So, where am I going from here? I guess it's this. There is no longer any such thing as source credibility when it comes to the legacy media, and unfortunately, that means that most of us do now have to go the extra mile to do the research into a topic in the current year. That sucks. But let's continue. Step 3 is location and access, which is another thing I have a short point about, and that is in regard to access to academic research blocked via journalistic research gates. This step basically just means that you find a source you're going to use, you read it, watch it, listen to it. Unfortunately, oftentimes, the information is hidden behind a paywall or a research gate. Look, I understand why these things exist. They allow academic journals to be profitable because universities pay exuberant fees so that faculty and students can access these databases. The problem is that excludes the average person trying to find factual information in an era where even other paid sources like the Wall Street Journal can no longer be trusted as inherently credible. And by the way, if you don't have access, the cost of reading some of these journals, even specific articles, from which all you have to go on is an abstract, can range from rental rates of a few bucks to over $100, particularly when the article is not available for renting. Those in the ivory tower or at news outlets work for organizations that allow them to access these data because they pay those fees. But a skeptical reader often cannot go to the article itself and verify its accuracy. I see journalists misreport on social science all the time because they are not trained in how to read statistical information or statistical output charts. Here's something I was thinking about talking about in a new video, which shows that people who like to think deeply about things less often, aka get to the point, don't bother me with the details, it's something called low need for cognition, they don't tend to mind spoilers. In fact, it actually can increase their enjoyment of a piece of media because they're like, get to the point. Now, some people will understand what this means, what I have up on the screen, but the average journalist doesn't. And as such, no shit, they're going to get it wrong. And you, dear viewer, you can't double check that their claims are correct without paying out the ass. Step 4 is the use of information through engaging, that is reading, watching, listening, etc., and extracting what you need from it. This is a very simple step. You access the media you found, albeit, as I've said, likely with some difficulty and regardless of source credibility. You find your source, now you need to find the operative bits of information to use within that source to answer the question you posed in step 1. This step exists to eliminate irrelevant information from your search. Step 5 is synthesis, wherein you, the media consumer, take everything you have found from various sources that you have accessed, including informal information like what do you see about your question being said on social media, what do you see being said by YouTubers about it, what do you hear from your friends, your classmates, your coworkers, all that jazz. And then you synthesize all that information and you come to a personal conclusion. Be your initial question merely exploratory, or be it directed as a hypothesis, in which case you would ultimately reject or accept your null. Finally, in step 6, and I think this is also pretty important, at least it has been for me, is evaluation and reflection. After you come to your conclusion, you need to be able to review your process and ask yourself, is there anything I did wrong? What can I do better next time I have a question? Making videos is a very visceral way of being able to look back on everything you've said, everything you've thought, every argument you've made in this manner and think, oh fuck me, I didn't think about this or that or the other. But it's something all media consumers, all literate media consumers should do when they go into a field of inquiry. So congratulations everyone, you have learned the basics of media literacy, and I now present unto you your certificate of being media literate. As a last bit, let's look into how to spot fake news. Now, I didn't make this image, and I want to explain some things because I don't agree with all of it. First, this is from The Guardian, one of the most respectable news outlets from that graph we looked at earlier, regarding the Pissgate dossier. Okay, I don't know why dossier says it's underlined, but the next part is definitely hyperbole. Look out for extreme verbiage like this, with definitive framing, like explosive and lurid. These are very strong words. Watch out for stuff like that. Next, they rhetorically ask, is it true? A question they immediately answer with unquestionably true, at least part of it, but what the average, unliterate reader might just see is unquestionably true. It leads the reader, again, through framing to get the idea that this whole thing is a done deal. Then they say the sex claims are unknowable and a matter of speculation. How about there is no evidence for the sex claims? Do you see how the framing of those two things that I just said is very different? The sourcing is one of the weakest. I mean, when you look at this dossier, there are no credible sources. The whole thing was a mess. They say some of the detail is questionable. See the emphasis on some after they've already told us that parts are unquestionable? And they just conclude that regardless of all these questionable, unverifiable, unknowable things, proves without a doubt that Russia hacked the DNC. This is fake news. Be on the lookout for some of the things that are pointed out here. Okay, so that's my main bit today on media literacy. I wanted to put this at the end because Shinra Kuroki suggested for 1K subs, I do a little bit about who I watch, and also I thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself. This is probably going to be boring for a lot of viewers, so I wanted to put it after something, probably also boring, but at least informative. Anyway, so my favorite people on YouTube, jeez. Okay, well I gotta be honest, Naked Ape's probably my favorite because he doesn't give any shits about anything, and I love it. He is hilarious, but also very smart. As I've said, I'm also very fond of Hard Bastard for his continual destruction of the mainstream media and for bravely watching CNN so I don't have to. To point out some smaller channels I think deserve more love, I gotta bring up Devil's Advocate, a awesome black dude who knows exactly what he's talking about. Some Dumb American, a college-aged girl who also knows what the fuck she's talking about. Let's see, White Rose, who is lovely and also has many good points. Rory the Lion, who's going through apparently some tough times right now. Check him out. He's hysterically funny. Suit Yourself, who like Rory is an Aussie. Both are very funny. Both have great content. Charming Man 93, who I don't know why he's been around for forever, but he's got like 9K subs. My name is Josephine. She's also a newer YouTuber, a incredibly intelligent young black woman. Caspera Barbecue, and Tristige, who I recently recorded a podcast thing video with. Please look forward to that. Other than that, I listen to most of the normal folk you guys probably know on YouTube. Sorry Run of a Cod, Crowton T, V, Computing Forever, Black Pigeon Speaks, Bearing, Andy Worski, Armored Skeptic, Shoe on Head, That Guy T, who I've actually been following longer than anybody else, I think like since he started in 2013. Let's see, Undoomed, Chris Raygun, Blair White, etc., all the usual suspects. Also, IRL friend of mine runs a YouTube channel that's more media-oriented called That's on YouTube. And outside of that, I watch all kinds of shit on YouTube. I spend so much of my time on this website, it's absolutely horrific. If I had to name my favorite non-political, skeptic-related channels, it's gonna be probably Ralph Movie Maker, Your Movie Sucks, and Red Letter Media. Wow, look, see all media shit, had nothing to do with politics. Also thought I'd share with you guys, for those of you who care for no reason at all, some of my favorite shit outside of YouTube. because I'm a turbo nerd, and astoundingly, not a girl who has really benefited from that label. I was bullied mercilessly for being such a nerdy spurg as a kid, which is exactly why I ended up being so obsessed with a TV show that was, 30 years old when I got into it, aka Star Trek the original series. Speaking of which, let's go! This is my speed run of favorite things in different categories. Favorite TV show, The X-Files, Star Trek the original series, Stargate SG-1. Favorite films, Survive Style 5, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Brazil. Animated films, Atlantis the Lost Empire, Road to El Dorado, The Prince of Egypt. Horror films, yes, this needs to be its own thing for me. Noroi the Curse, Cannibal Two Sisters, Tetsuo the Iron Man. Games, Deus Ex, the original one, Planescape Torment, and Metal Gear Solid 2. Books, The Witcher Saga, Stormlight Archive, and King Killer Chronicle. Comics, Daredevil, Miller, Bendis, Brubaker, Wade, Saga the Swamp Thing by Moore, and Habibi. Music, oh, this is awful, Lake Radio, Purity Ring, Churches, yeah, that kind of saves me time on a possible Q&A. Alright, that's it then. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Again, thank you guys so much for 1K. I'm Aiden Paladin, Altana Volt.